A world where trust is broken, alliances shatter, and survival is everything. This is the beginning of Savage Valley. In Chapter 252, everything changes. Welcome to a story filled with intense betrayals, shocking decisions, and brutal conflict that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Will the characters survive the storm ahead, or will they fall to the darkness surrounding them? Savage Valley Chapter 252 starts with the introduction of a new, intense situation that sets the tone for the rest of the chapter. This opening chapter creates a mysterious atmosphere that grabs the reader's attention and builds intrigue. It introduces the main characters and the core conflict of the story. From the very beginning, we sense that this world is filled with tension, danger, and unexpected challenges. The initial chapter serves as the foundation for an intense journey ahead, filled with action, danger, and uncertainty. Main themes. The main themes of Chapter 1 include disconnected societies, temporary alliances, and unforeseen threats. It kicks off with the main characters facing a new and dangerous situation that will impact their world and everything they know. As the chapter progresses, the true complexity of the characters' relationships begins to emerge, and the core struggle begins to unfold. Themes of betrayal, trust, and survival are introduced, and the stakes are quickly raised. This chapter sets the stage for the ongoing struggles that will dominate the story. Plot development. Chapter 1 of Savage Valley Chapter 252 begins with the main character facing a sudden and unexpected conflict. The plot shows the struggle of surviving in an unknown environment, where the main character's skills and wit are tested. At the same time, we are introduced to new enemies, hidden alliances, and the conflict between groups vying for control. The beginning shows how the protagonist navigates through dangerous terrain, attempting to survive amidst rising threats and increasingly difficult situations. This chapter sets the tone for the darker themes and intriguing twists ahead. Character analysis. The protagonist struggles. The main character in Chapter 1 is initially shown as part of a struggling society. They are thrown into a world that is chaotic and filled with unknown challenges. This chapter reveals their inner conflict and personal struggles as they try to adapt to a new environment. Their survival skills, as well as their ability to stay calm under pressure, are tested right from the beginning. The chapter emphasizes their personal battles, both physical and mental, as they try to make sense of the environment around them. Supporting characters. Supporting characters play a crucial role in this chapter. Some characters appear to be loyal, while others have their own hidden agendas. There is tension between the characters as they try to navigate this dangerous world, unsure of whom to trust. The reliability of these supporting characters is questioned, adding layers of intrigue to the plot. Conflict and issues. The primary conflict in Chapter 1 is the unexpected danger and the struggle for survival. The protagonist and other characters are faced with unpredictable threats. As the danger increases, the characters must decide whether they will stand together or betray each other to survive. The rising tensions and inner conflicts create a dynamic that will continue throughout the book. As the chapter progresses, the separation between allies begins to take shape, further complicating the characters' goals and their relationships. Ending and cliffhanger. The chapter ends on a dramatic cliffhanger where a new challenge looms. The protagonist is faced with a decisive moment that will determine the future path of their journey. At the end, readers are left wondering about the fate of the characters and how they will overcome the challenges ahead. The cliffhanger sets the stage for a more intense continuation of the story, filled with unexpected twists. What's next? Looking ahead to the next chapters, we anticipate that the characters will face even greater challenges, especially as new powers and secrets come to light. The character relationships will continue to evolve, and more conflicts will arise. The unpredictable nature of the story promises that nothing will be as it seems, and the stakes will only grow higher. Overall analysis. Chapter 1 of Savage Valley Chapter 252 successfully establishes the core conflict and introduces the characters that will play pivotal roles throughout the story. The chapter provides a gripping start, blending tension, action, and emotional depth. It sets the stage for what promises to be a thrilling, unpredictable narrative, full of challenges and powerful revelations. Savage Valley delves deeper into the growing tensions that began in Chapter 1. With the foundation laid, the chapter introduces a new set of conflicts and character dynamics that push the story into a more intense direction. The atmosphere in this chapter is heavy with anticipation and impending danger, as the storm clouds of conflict begin to form. This chapter is pivotal because it amplifies the stakes and begins to give the reader a clearer view of the challenges the characters will face. Main themes. Survival versus strategy. Chapter 2 emphasizes the theme of survival and how it is intricately tied to strategy. While the characters are capable of surviving on their own, the true challenge lies in outsmarting their adversaries and working together, despite the growing distrust among them. Trust and betrayal. Trust is a key element that is explored in more depth. Characters must choose who to align with, but doing so could mean betraying others. This creates a sense of moral conflict, making it unclear whether alliances will hold or shatter. Rising tension. As the story moves forward, the tension between characters intensifies. The choices they make in this chapter are critical for the direction of their relationships and the path they take. Plot development. The chapter kicks off with an intense challenge, where the characters are forced to make difficult decisions. The environment grows increasingly hostile as new elements are introduced, strange obstacles appear, and the characters must adapt quickly or risk failing. Here's a deeper look into what happens. Character showdown. One of the main conflicts in this chapter is between two characters who represent opposing ideologies. One character believes in cooperation and long-term planning, while the other is more immediate and aggressive in their approach. This clash sets the tone for the entire chapter. Environmental challenges. The group is faced with an unexpected environmental hurdle, e.g., a sudden storm, treacherous terrain, or a natural disaster. This adds physical danger to the already psychologically taxing environment, making the stakes even higher. These challenges are testing the group's survival skills, but more importantly, they are testing their unity. Internal conflict. Tension mounts within the group as some individuals begin to question each other's motives. Doubt creeps in, creating internal conflict that threatens to unravel the group from the inside. This chapter does an excellent job of highlighting how personal insecurities and ambitions impact collective survival. Begins to show their growth in Chapter 2. After surviving the initial challenges of Chapter 1, they are forced to make decisions that will determine their place within the group and their moral compass. The main character begins to show their growth in Chapter 2. After surviving the initial challenges of Chapter 1, they are forced to make decisions that will determine their place within the group and their moral compass. The protagonist starts to reveal vulnerabilities, which makes them more relatable and adds depth to their persona. Antagonists rise. A secondary character, potential antagonist, starts to reveal their true intentions, making their actions more aggressive. This character may seem like a helper at first, but their self-serving nature begins to show as they manipulate the group for personal gain. This foreshadows potential betrayal that could come later. Supporting characters. Supporting characters are developed further, showing their individual struggles and how they cope with the pressures of survival. Their relationships with the main character become more intricate, with some characters forming alliances while others begin to express discontent. Conflict and issues. The central conflict in Chapter 2 revolves around how the characters handle the obstacles presented by both the environment and their own personal ambitions. Trust issues between characters escalate when they realize not everyone is working towards the same goal. Some may seek short-term benefits, while others have a more strategic long-term view. The mental toll of survival weighs heavily on everyone. The constant emotional stress, the lack of resources, and the presence of unpredictable dangers lead to poor decisions, internal disputes, and chaotic alliances. A critical failure in this chapter occurs when one character fails to complete a task that was crucial for the group's survival. This failure causes a ripple effect throughout the group and creates a blame game, which further divides the characters. Ending and cliffhanger. Chapter 2 concludes with a cliffhanger that raises the stakes even higher. Just as the group begins to rebuild and form a new alliance, a new threat emerges, something completely unexpected that will change everything. Mystery threat. The final lines of the chapter hint at the emergence of a new antagonist, whether a person or a force of nature, that could destroy the fragile unity the group has worked so hard to establish. The reader is left with questions about what comes next. Backhand index pointing right. Will the group be able to hold it together? Backhand index pointing right. Can the protagonist handle the mounting pressure and make the right decisions? Backhand index pointing right. What is the true nature of the threat that lurks ahead? Overall analysis. Chapter 2 of Savage Valley. Chapter 252 does an excellent job of developing the characters and intensifying the conflicts. The stakes are significantly raised, and the mental, physical, and emotional toll on the characters becomes evident. The plot advances with complex character dynamics and external threats that keep readers on edge. The chapter ends with a cliffhanger, leaving the audience eagerly awaiting what happens next. Savage Valley marks a crucial turning point in the story. After the emotional and physical toll of the first two chapters, the characters face their breaking point in this chapter. Tensions that have been brewing since the beginning now come to a head, and the group begins to unravel. The stakes have never been higher, and the story takes a darker, more intense turn as the characters make life-altering decisions. The plot is filled with unexpected twists, personal struggles, and shocking betrayals. Main themes: desperation and survival. Chapter 3 highlights the extreme lengths that the characters are willing to go to in order to survive. As their resources run out and their morale weakens, the theme of desperation becomes central. The will to survive is tested as the characters confront their deepest fears and the consequences of their earlier decisions. Betrayal and trust. Betrayal reaches its peak in this chapter. The fragile alliances formed earlier begin to crumble as characters make self-serving choices that endanger the group. Trust becomes a luxury no one can afford, and the paranoia sets in, making it harder for anyone to rely on others. Moral choices and consequences. The characters face several moral dilemmas in this chapter. Their choices will have lasting consequences, not just for themselves but for the group as a whole. The chapter explores the moral cost of survival, and whether winning is worth the sacrifices they must make. Plot development. Chapter 3 takes the tension from the first 2 chapters and intensifies it. Here's a breakdown of the major events. The first major betrayal. A character who had previously built trust with the group makes a betrayal that shocks everyone. They secretly align with an outside force or individual for personal gain. This betrayal is the first real fracture in the group's unity, setting the tone for the rest of the chapter. This betrayal causes emotional fallout within the group, leading to arguments, suspicion, and divisions. Relationships that were previously strong begin to weaken as the group realizes how vulnerable they are to external and internal threats. A dangerous choice. One character faces a moral dilemma. They must choose between helping the group survive or making a selfish decision to ensure their own safety. Their choice will determine whether they remain with the group or become an outsider. This choice leads to a split in the group, with some members willing to forgive and others unwilling to trust the betrayer. It raises the question, how far will people go to save themselves? Escalating threats. As the group deals with internal conflict, the external threat that had been building in the previous chapters finally emerges in full force. Whether it's a new enemy, environmental hazard, or an even greater betrayal from within, this chapter escalates the danger, forcing the group to make risky decisions. The threat forces characters to confront their worst fears, and the physical and emotional toll reaches its peak. The chapter is filled with chaotic moments where characters have to choose between protecting themselves or sacrificing for the group. Character development. Protagonist transformation. The main character undergoes a significant transformation in this chapter. After witnessing the betrayals and sacrifices, they are forced to decide where they stand within the group. Their loyalty is tested, and they begin to question their morality and whether survival at any cost is worth it. This chapter highlights the inner turmoil of the protagonist. Their resolve is shaken, and they are pushed to make decisions that will impact the rest of their journey. Antagonist strategy. The antagonist begins to reveal their true intentions, manipulating the events for their own benefit. This character's actions, whether open or covert, push the group further into chaos. They may appear as an ally but are playing the long game, setting the stage for more conflict. The chapter teases the antagonist's endgame, leaving the audience questioning how much control they truly have over the situation. Supporting characters. Supporting characters show both growth and decay in this chapter. Some characters who were once strong allies start to lose their grip on reality as they struggle with the escalating pressure. Others, who were initially seen as weak, begin to rise to the occasion, showing unexpected strength. Conflict and issues. The primary conflict in Chapter 3 is internal struggle. The characters are facing betrayal not just from outsiders, but from trust has become a rare commodity, and the fear of being betrayed looms large. Survival instincts take over, and the group is fracturing, unable to stay united. The external threat that began to manifest in earlier chapters now becomes imminent, but the biggest battle is within. Who can be trusted and who will ultimately survive? Ending and cliffhanger. The chapter ends with a cliffhanger that sets the stage for the next chapter. The betrayal reaches its consequences, and the group's future is uncertain. A key character faces a life or death decision, with the future of the group hanging in the balance. As the chapter closes, the group must decide whether to forgive the betrayal or take action that could result in even more chaos. New alliances are formed, but loyalties are still in question, leaving readers on the edge of their seats, eager to see how the group will continue to survive. Overall analysis. Chapter 3 of Savage Valley. Chapter 252 amplifies the tension and sets the stage for a fateful confrontation. The internal and external struggles take on greater significance, pushing the characters into a corner where every decision will have monumental consequences. The moral questions raised, the betrayals that unfold, and the intense threats from within and outside the group make this chapter crucial in shaping the story's future direction. Savage Valley shifts the tone towards complete chaos. After the shocking betrayals and intense struggles in the previous chapters, the tension reaches its peak in this chapter. Everything begins to unravel, and the characters are faced with their biggest challenges yet. The actions taken here will define the future trajectory of the story and the ultimate fates of the characters. This chapter focuses on revealing secrets, dealing with consequences, and picking sides in the most dramatic way possible. Main themes: revelation and secrets. Chapter 4 delves deeper into the secrets that have been simmering under the surface. We learn more about the characters' hidden motivations, past decisions, and the skeletons in the closet that everyone has been trying to avoid. This theme of revelation sets the stage for a shocking turning point. Consequences of betrayal. After the events of the previous chapters, the consequences of betrayal are now coming to fruition. Relationships are tested and trust is completely shattered. The characters are forced to confront the reality of their actions, and some may find that redemption is out of reach. The cost of survival. The theme of survival continues in Chapter 4, but with a new focus on the emotional and psychological toll it has taken on everyone. As the stakes rise, the characters must decide what they're willing to sacrifice to ensure their survival, whether it's their morals, their friendships, or their humanity. Plot development. Chapter 4 kicks off with the consequences of the previous decisions coming into full view. The dynamics of the group have completely shifted, and several major events unfold. A desperate escape. The group faces a life-threatening situation. With the external threat looming closer than ever, the characters must choose whether to stay and face it or make a risky escape. The decision to run or stay puts the group at further risk, and the anxiety among the characters grows. This situation forces the protagonist and other members of the group to make a critical decision, one that will drastically change the course of their survival. A surprising betrayal exposed. An even bigger betrayal is revealed that shocks everyone. A key member of the group has been secretly working with an outside force. This revelation sends shockwaves through the group, causing a massive breakdown in their fragile unity. The person responsible for the betrayal attempts to justify their actions, but the damage is done. Trust is completely destroyed, and alliances that were once strong are now in shambles. A shocking alliance forms. Amidst the chaos, two characters who were once enemies or unlikely allies form a temporary alliance in a bid to survive. This unexpected pairing adds new layers to their personalities and gives the story a new direction. This alliance may hold the key to survival or could become another ticking time bomb. The first casualty. In a heart-wrenching moment, the first major casualty of the group occurs. The loss of this character hits hard, and it becomes clear that no one is safe. This loss motivates the group to re-evaluate their approach to survival, but it also sparks intense emotional conflict among them. The loss is a wake-up call for the group that survival comes at a high price. This tragic moment changes the course of the narrative and challenges the characters to think differently about their future. Character development. Protagonist dilemma. The protagonist faces a deep moral dilemma in Chapter 4. After the betrayal and loss, they are forced to confront their own values and motivation. The decisions they make will not only affect their survival but also determine whether they can live with the consequences. The protagonist begins to question whether their original approach to survival was the right one, and whether they can continue with the same ideals or whether they must adapt to the harsh realities of the situation. The antagonist's plan unfolds. The antagonist, whether internal or external, reveals their true plan. This character, who has been a shadow in the background, now emerges as a serious threat. Their motivations become clearer, and they begin manipulating the group to further their own interests. This chapter also gives readers more insight into the antagonist's mindset and what drives them. The power struggle between the protagonist and the antagonist escalates, adding intensity to the narrative. Supporting characters' growth. Supporting characters undergo significant growth in Chapter 4. Those who were once seen as weaker or less important now find themselves playing more pivotal roles. Whether they rise to the occasion or crumble under the pressure remains a critical point in the narrative. These characters' relationships with the protagonist evolve, creating new bonds and furthering the emotional stakes of the story. Conflict and issues. The primary conflict in Chapter 4 centers around the unraveling of the group due to the series of betrayals and the looming external threat. The characters are now divided and the stakes are higher than ever. Internal conflict. The group is splintered and no one knows whom to trust. Personal vendettas and alliances are put to the test as the characters try to survive together. External conflict. The external threat continues to press on the group, forcing them into life-threatening situations. The tension between the survival instinct and moral choices creates a fascinating dynamic. Emotional strain. The emotional toll of surviving in such a harsh environment is highlighted as the characters come face to face with their personal demons from within their own ranks. Ending and cliffhanger. The chapter ends with a shocking twist. The group faces an imminent threat that leaves them with no clear way out. Just as they think they have a chance at survival, an unforeseen new danger appears, and the group must make a desperate final stand. Critical decision. The protagonist is forced to make a life-altering choice that will impact not only their fate but the survival of the entire group. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends on a dramatic note with the entire group in jeopardy, leaving readers desperate to know what happens next. Overall analysis. Chapter 4 of Savage Valley Chapter 252 ramps up the intensity of the story. The character dynamics shift, new alliances are forged, and betrayals continue to play a pivotal role in the development of the plot. The stakes are raised even higher, with both internal and external threats now threatening the survival of the characters. This chapter serves as a turning point, setting up critical decisions that will define the characters' paths going forward. It's a chapter that forces characters to confront their past decisions, make difficult choices, and fight for their lives.